So I'll call this meeting of the Town of Bethel Public Site and Building Commission to order at 7:03. Hopefully others that need to be here will join us. Pretty much everybody's here except Rizzo, I think. And I don't have a flag, so I don't want to be disrespectful and salute nothing. So we will dispense with that.
Rizzo's here.
Oh, okay. Are you the phone number that's there?
Yes, myself and Jim are here.
Okay, great. That's good to know. So public input, I don't see any public because the unknown phone number there is Jim and Ken. So we will, and Gil's on twice, so he can try to talk twice if he wants.
I don't think that's legal.
Yeah, no. And any correspondence, I don't have anything. I don't think, Kathy, you have anything that's other than related to specific projects, so we'll dispense with that. So then we have meeting minutes, and those were sent out ahead of time, so you should have had a chance to read them. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the regular meeting of Tuesday. What's the date? The 14th, sorry, April 14th, 2020.
Yes, read them.
Dave seconds.
I-
And since you've all read them, I don't know if anybody has any questions about them or any changes that need to happen. I read through and I think everything seems to be fine.
I agree.
Everybody's good? Okay, so let's vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is anybody opposed? And does anybody have to abstain? I think everybody was there last time. Oops, I just lost them again. I'm looking to see who was there and who wasn't. Yeah, everybody was there.
Everyone
so
was
we're good
there.
with that. Yep. Okay, so then we'll go right into old business. So we have our school projects. First on the bullets of the agenda, construction progress updates, which I think will come from Ken and/or Jim.
That's correct.
Okay, we could start with Johnson. Currently, we're working in the gym on the CMU for the Mason. We're working basically on the mechanicals within the gym and the we call it the PE physical ed area. That's the office area going into the school. So there's electrical rooms there that are being worked on, and basically this Mason is also working on the stair 4. He's building that stair tower. And then we move into the kitchen area. We're working on the underground plumbing and getting that installed so that we can get that inspected on Thursday, backfill it, and start getting ready for the slab. The kitchen, right now, we've still working on some demolition of some exterior openings, but for the most part, we've done the demolition in the cafeteria. And for the second floor of the existing building, we're working on masonry, getting ready for the door frames when they come in. Metal stud framing is going on. A lot of electrical rough-in. The HVAC contractor is installing his equipment and ductwork up there on the second floor. We're also installing the windows. I've got it down as 40%, but it might have jumped up, today, after today. So that's ongoing. And demo is pretty like 99% up there. There's not hardly any demolition left. So everything is progressing up there. For the main office, we are kind of in a holding pattern till we can figure out what can stay and what can't go, because we have to be prepared for school to open. So we found some suspected asbestos tile underneath the carpet that wasn't tested, or we're not sure if it's hot or not, and that's something that will have to be dealt with.
You said, Ken, that was in the office area?
Hey, Nancy,
Yeah,
can I
right.
get on that for a second? That was identified by McGlone and McBroom a while back. And then they said it was hot. So we had to put a layer of plastic over it and then put those carpet squares. Because at that point, it was prior to the project. We didn't want to deal with the asbestos at that point. And then it was tested and said it wasn't asbestos. And now I'm hearing that it is again. So that's a surprise.
Now, right now, Bob, we're assuming it is. So we submitted a proposal. It can be tested. We weren't able to find a test on that. So we're not sure.
Bob, do we have that test?
I have to look. I think we do. I'll look tomorrow on that. We have a file on McGlone and McBroom.
Okay.
Okay, so Ken, Bob's going to check into that, and so that way, if we do have a test and we have a result one way or the other, we don't want to test again.
Yeah, good. Okay. So the other areas that we're working on are some of the wall panels are being installed around the new addition. There's site work that's ongoing around the new addition. The detention pond is being shaped up, and some of the work around the new addition is starting to get completed. And the front of the school, the whole canopy was demoed, and Eversource was there today to install their new transformer. And right now we've got a power shutdown, and it's supposed to be coming back on sometime tomorrow. And that's basically it. There's a lot of electrical tying in happening within the next couple days.
So Ken, the power being off with Eversource being there and all, is that making it so no work can be done, or is there some temporary power that people are using?
We've had to bring in some generators, and this was the way that Eversource wanted to do it. We really didn't have much of a choice. They had an issue at the pole itself that they couldn't leave in place. So they insisted that they take the old transformer out, because the plan had been to take the old out only after the new was fully up and running. But so we've had to deal with that, but hopefully sometime tomorrow before the end of the day, we've got power back to the whole building.
Okay.
Hey, Nancy, I have a question before you go any farther.
Okay.
Does Beth Cavagna need to inspect that retention pond?
Why?
Nancy, did you hear me?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a zoning thing.
I don't think it's Beth. I think, well, yes, Beth Cavagna. She was concerned about protection of it while they were building it. I think she does have to inspect it eventually. She has to sign off on all of the drainage and all of the site work.
Right, but does that like at the end, or does she have to see it in progress to make sure?
That was the point of my question, because they're actively doing it now. So that's why,
Right. Hey, Bob, they usually do it at the end.
Okay.
And I think when we talked about it before, she was depending on getting a sign off from the civil engineer that everything had been installed according to the documents previously approved. So, but we can reach out to her and see if she wants to see it in the interim as well.
Thank you.
Geraldine, you'll do that?
Yep. I will.
All right, thanks. Okay, Ken.
Okay. All right, we'll move over to Rockwell.
Before we do that, Kathy, are you able to enable screen sharing for me so I can show documents? I get a message that says the host has to enable it, and I think you're the host.
I
Yeah,
am
she
the
is.
host. Do you know how I would do that?
A screen sharing, it's easy. Go
So-
down to the bottom in the
Uh-huh.
center,
Yeah.
and there's a green arrow that says
Oh,
share
share
screen.
screen. Yeah.
Yep, click on that,
Got it.
and then pull up whatever you want to look at. So if it's in a Word doc,
But Kathy doesn't.
I don't have anything.
I need to do that, but I get a message that says the host has to enable it. So I don't know where that.
Let me make host
Right.
record.
Right, because we were able to do it last time, Ken.
I know we were able to do last time, but I don't know what's, I don't know if I can make you a co-host and that would make you enable to do it.
Might have been something that Nick did when he set up the meeting.
I set up the meetings from now on. That's the
Oh.
thing, because it was getting complicated the other way. But
Kathy, I think you're right. I think you have to make Geraldine a co-host.
co-host, that's what I was thinking.
yeah.
You want Geraldine? I'm gonna say yes. There. You're a co-host now.
Thank you. Okay, now I got it.
Perfect.
Thanks.
There it is.
And look at that.
Okay, sorry about that. Ken, proceed, please.
Okay, so for Rockwell, for the site work, we're working around the back of the building. We put in a section of sidewalk, and we're going to continue there and around the toe of the slope in the back. We're going to work on some under drainage over there. And then they're working on the grease trap installation in the front for the kitchen. And then as far as the kitchen goes, we should have all of the concrete removed early tomorrow so that we can we'll start the excavation. So the excavation is starting. And we'll start the underground. The gym, they did the abatement and was cleared, and so they've removed all of the containments except for 3 small containments for this slab grinding where the PCBs where the levels were too high and they had to go back in and regrind to get the PCB level at the right level so they could take the containments down. And because they did the smaller containments, they were able to do the major clean demolition, which is basically the large opening for the new folding glass partition.
So Ken, can
And
because I was there today, is the in the areas that I know what you're talking about, grinding down the slab for the PCBs. So the work's been done. You're just waiting for the clearance. Is that what you said?
yeah, they have to retest it.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure if they were in there today drilling to retest. So that's what they have to just come in and retest it.
Okay.
And so that part of the gym is pretty close to having the demolition done. And then we'll start putting it back together. I mean, we have some plumbing going on for the roof drains now, so there is new work started in there. And then the cafeteria stage was demoed, and we're working in there on other demolition items so that we can get the various window openings cut out. And then the nurses area, the existing nurses area is all in the containment right now, and they're in there doing the PCB, and there's going to be some asbestos flooring that they'll be taking out of that area. And the roofing, I should have mentioned at the other school as well. That was, it's ongoing at both schools. And for Rockwell, they did another section of the above the second floor roof today. So when the weather permits, we can take a section out and put a new section back in. And we're hoping to get started down. I don't know if it's going to be the kitchen. It depends. It might not be. It might be over at the gym. We're gonna see how that one is tomorrow. The wall panel Z-girts are being put up so that, and some of the wall panels are going up at stair 1. And we have interior door frames and stud walls going up down in the kindergarten wing. And electrical, a lot of work in the electrical rooms and getting ready for a May 4th shutdown at Rockwell as well, May 4th and May 5th.
And is that because of Eversource having to do whatever they need to do?
Yes, they are going to be setting the new transformer, taking the old one out, and then that way we can take the old telephone pole out of there.
Okay. And then with the roof work, is there something going on with some leaking somewhere?
Well, I was going to bring that up. So Ken, I know that you're struggling. I know because we've talked about it in the trailer meetings that there's some issues around the duct work and things like that. But what's concerning me is that I sent Bob a couple of pictures today, and I know he went and checked it out. But so like today there was leaks in the hallway from the roof. I think it was from the roof. And then there was leaks in one of the room. And what concerned me is that nobody protected that leak. And it was just leaking onto the furniture and some other things. And then the ones in the hallway, at least the ones I saw, and Bob could add to this, it was in that nice, Bob, what is that ceiling called?
It's the wood slat ceiling.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't want that ruined.
Well, I think
Right.
it's going to, with that water coming through it, it's
Right.
going to get deformed.
So what's going on? I mean, that keeps happening. And then I certainly think there's got to be a level of attention if there is a leak that our stuff is protected.
And, the only thing that we thought we were pretty good with leaks, and the only thing that we could come up with is at certain areas where we've had to patch in the new drains during the installation of the drains, the patches that go over the existing roof, because of the type of roofing, it's not like you're adhering rubber to rubber. It's got the asphalt and all the grains, and it because of traffic, you can't always see if someone creates a leak, and I think it's just that, and the sooner we can.
Bottom line is, Dr. Corey, it's no secret when it rains, so we have to be up there. We have to look and make sure that
Right.
if there is, because of the history of the roof, we know what we have to do. That leak in the corridor, I believe, comes from because of the phasing. Some of those roof drains don't get tied in until we get those classrooms down below, so that there's a pump up top where the new drain is going to go. So if we're not paying attention to that pump, that water level is going to build up and it may find a way in. So all of those things should be preventable. We're getting closer to the end of dealing with water up there. It's unfortunate that this had to happen after this rainfall, but again, it's no secret when it rains, we should be the first one to see it.
So are you going to take some measures to protect stuff and also check that wood ceiling to make sure that
Yes, absolutely. If we have to replace that section of wood ceiling where the water came through, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, I don't think they're having the same issue at Johnson. I think it's more of a Rockwell issue, right, Bob?
Yes, it's right now it's just Rockwell. I didn't see any leaking at all at
Yeah,
Johnson.
the problem with Rockwell is the ductwork up on the existing roof and then putting a new roof under it. Now, the ductwork is getting insulated, so that was the last hole in the roof. So as we're progressing towards the west on that roof, the ductwork insulation is following behind it. So it's taking care of a lot of those problematic areas that were a result of exposed ductwork or exposed where the ductwork enters into the building or the old roof itself.
Okay, any more questions on the roof and the leaking and such? You'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, but hey, Jim, this has been a couple of days since it rained. Is it pooling up there that needs to get brushed off, or?
Yeah, like I had mentioned, Bob, the pooling spot was where there's a pump where the new drain is. So why that wouldn't have gotten cleaned out, that's what I'll have to find out.
Okay, because it was a pretty steady drip today.
Right. He's right. It was pretty steady.
Yep, I did go up and look.
Okay. And then room 204 has, which is directly across from that leak, that has ceiling tile damage, and I'm going to keep an eye and make sure the furniture didn't get ruined. I'm going to go up there tomorrow morning and double check, see if anything is damp.
Okay, it shouldn't, and obviously any of the ceiling tiles, a lot of them are the old ceiling tiles that needed to be replaced anyway. That's why we haven't replaced them until we get the roof sealed up. Those will get cleaned up as well.
Do we know if the Q decking runs that direction? Is it across the hall?
It's Rockwell. It runs everywhere.
Okay.
The 204 leak that Bob's talking about is definitely a Q decking issue where the Q deck is running east-west, and we're pretty well roofed up to that area, but it could be that we're taking it from an area a little further down that we haven't gotten to yet.
Right, and it's going to take a couple days to
definitely a Q
penetrate.
deck issue.
Yeah, it'll take
You
a
can
couple
see it
days to
come through
penetrate and
and-
soak through. Okay.
Okay, anything more on your report there, Ken?
No, that should do it.
Okay,
Hey,
anybody have questions for Ken?
Nance?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Yeah, one question I have is, a while back, I think Bill Foster made mention about the safety fence up on top of the hill by the bocce court. And took a spin up through there today, and there's no fencing at all up there. I'm not sure if the project, are we supposed to put a fence up through there? Is that part of the project?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Geraldine, didn't we talk about it at the last,
We did. We talked about it and and the direction was that when things open up again and there's the possibility of the public being on the campus, that we would protect that area. The previous fence that was up there was because of changes in grade that were created by excavation.
Right.
We recognize that there's a need to separate the bocce courts when people can use them from the rest of construction. So we'll be looking at that when and if that needs to happen.
All right, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty steep drop off there, that's for sure.
But I think that the feeling right now is that there shouldn't be anybody there other than construction people.
Right.
And
so that's just a construction thing. There's not going to be some permanent fence put up there.
no.
Right.
Well,
That's
none of the kids are going to be playing in the bocce court anyway, right?
That's the point. That's why we wanted to wait, because of the social distancing, really there should be no one up there anyways.
No.
Yeah, but is there a reliability issue if we don't put something up there because somebody just decided to take the dog for a walk and fell down a hill?
Well, that's a good question.
I mean, you can't fix everything. It's
What's does caution tape and a couple stakes cost? Nothing. At least put something, make a reasonable attempt to show that that's our hill.
Yes, even that orange safety fence,
Right.
The
A silk fence.
construction fence do it. The construction fence would do it, and that's what there was there originally, and that's since been removed.
There is a 3-rail fence later on going in there, a wood fence.
Yeah, no, I'm just concerned that, you got people out wandering around and God forbid.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the school complex walking.
Yes, there is. God forbid something happened.
Nancy,
Yeah,
but is there going to be a permanent fence there? Someone just mentioned a 3-rail, split rail fence or something. I mean, that grade is pretty steep over in that direction there. So I was just wondering if there needs to be a permanent fence there.
There is. It's a 3-rail round type wooden fence.
okay, so there is a permanent fence going on at the end,
Yes,
as part of
that
construction
wouldn't be
to finish.
at the end of the project.
Right, but there's nothing there now. What was there, what John Menti brought up was that there was something there during construction. We're thinking no one needs to be wandering around, but if somebody did go wandering around, we may want to think about, like Bob said, maybe just some stakes and caution tape or some, if you got some orange plastic fencing around, maybe that could, whatever was there, maybe could go back up temporarily. Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. We can put some fence up, sure.
Yeah. Just,
Well,
Just as a safety measure, right?
Yep.
Okay.
probably won't need it, but if it's not there and we did need it, then
Yep,
would be a net.
liability issues.
Okay, anything else for Ken and or Jim on the construction progress? And so you're going to be looking into roof leaks at Rockwell. We're going to be checking into that fence. And Bob's looking for the testing on the flooring in that main office area to make sure that we can check that, or to see if we do need to have it tested. If it's already been tested, we don't want to do it again.
So we were going to talk about this later as well, because there was going to be a PCO to consider. But Bob, are you saying that there was a test done as part of the Malone and McBroom testing that was done, or is this outside of the documents we would have?
It was right in the beginning stages where we were looking at areas that we knew had 9x9s.
Right.
And when we were in the office, there was a couple tiles that were loose. And I don't remember who we talked to, but I know it was from Malone and McBroom the day he came around and was testing. And his response was, oh, that's definitely asbestos, without testing it at that point. And then he recommended that we put something down on those floating tiles. And we did. The school paid for those carpet squares. So we put a layer of plastic down, and then we put the carpet squares on top of it. And we went the entire school year with, well, part of the school year, and then the project started. It took us right into the beginning of the project. So it was told to us that those were asbestos.
But if it wasn't noted in the report, I don't know if it was or not.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I'll dig through Terry's folder, McLone and McBroom tomorrow, and see if I can get that. Because we wouldn't have purchased all those carpet squares if it wasn't something, noted.
So the reason that there's a PCO in front of us is because the specifications specifically say that there is no tile under the carpet in the admin area, which sort of directly contradicts that, whether the tile was asbestos containing or not. So, all right, we'll all look into that before we deal with that change order. But as you said earlier, I don't want to order another test if we already have a test result. Otherwise, we might, what we've tended to do on a lot of these issues is that we're not spending money on tests. We're just assuming that it needs to be abated and getting rid of it if it has, the visual characteristics that the professionals, feel would point to that. But we'll gather some more information.
so Bob's going to check the files and
And I'll check the spec again and see what it says about.
Right. And whatever Bob finds out, he'll let Geraldine know and
Right. Now, that office right now is being demoed.
Right, that's why it's come up right now. They want to know whether they need to contain and abate that flooring or not.
Well, I tell you what, we were there for a fire alarm today and an issue. And when we went in there, that floor was all pulled apart. The carpet squares were gone and there's, I don't know.
And the
I just
carpet.
hope to interrupt that.
okay. So we're good. We're checking into that, and that's all the different questions that we had for Ken and Jim, correct?
Well, I wanted them to speak a little bit to the overall schedule because they did present an overall construction schedule. Johnson was submitted in time for it to be distributed. I think Rockwell was not because it didn't come through till this morning. Both of the schedules are up on the shared drive, but in light of the Board of Ed's concern about whether school will really be able to open on September 8th and the need to back off of that date, obviously, to give teachers a chance to move in and to give furniture and technology a chance to be installed. I think we just wanted to talk a little bit about the overall construction schedule and what we're looking at through the summer. So Ken, can you speak to that, or Jim?
Yeah, that's next
Sure.
on the agenda, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's back up a little bit to where we are now. So right now, as it stands, we have this May 20th date. So what we have to plan for is by May 11th, if a decision hasn't been made, we need to start cleaning the building to get it ready. So obviously, the sooner a decision can be made, the more more beneficial to the project it would be, because if we have to stop and clean up, that's obviously going to take away from what we could be doing. The areas that we're getting into now are we're progressing through. There is a little bit of an issue in the admin area where it's become select demo and it's not quite as helpful as we had hoped, but again, it's all hinging upon that May 20th date. As we look forward to the summer, there are a couple of areas that are a concern. You have the gang bathroom at Rockwell with the classrooms that surround it. You have the first floor over at Johnson with the classrooms where we haven't gotten to with. Those would be a little bit of a concern based on what we're seeing now from issues from everything from the COVID-19 crew side productions that we're getting out of crews. So, Geraldine, we got your email yesterday with the looking to give back some time out for startups and things like that. We sat down as a company today with Tony Jr. and went through that. We'll be meeting again to try to come up with what we can do around those dates. But I think definitely that's something we can get into more detail, at our Thursday meeting, as far as the details of trying to put that together and what areas aren't an issue and what areas are an issue.
Yeah, I agree. It needs more work as a team because while we need some time to install owner vendor items, we also can talk about how we can overlap with the conclusion of construction. So I do know it needs more work.
Geraldine, I tried to call you before the meeting, but I wasn't able to connect with you. So Tony Rizzo reached out to me late this afternoon, and he does want to sit down, and he wanted to adapt. Well, it's actually for me to adapt the time to, instead of 1 o'clock. So I just send you an invite for that. I don't know if you're available at 1 as opposed to 2, but.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. He wanted to kind of, as Jim said, he kind of wanted to go with him there. He wanted to carefully go through the schedule and talk about what could be done, what's problematic because of a variety of things, and then kind of work it out as a team. With regard to school, I think I'm going to hear sometime this week or early next week. But I would pretty much stake my life that we're not going back for this year. I'm pretty confident about that. So I do think we should plan as if we're not. And I think you'll know way before May 11th. The governor actually said it on TV last night.
Well, and I think, we don't want to guess, but at the same time, in looking at, the residential facilities, nursing homes, homeless shelters, places that have lots of people close together are having a real hard time dropping their numbers, stemming the flow, et cetera. So I can't imagine
They're
it would
not.
be a good idea to put kids in a classroom.
No,
Yet, you have to wait for that official
you do.
before we can kind of let Seder Rizzo have at it.
Agreed, you do. And so hopefully we'll know like within the next week or so. I don't think it's going to go right up to May 20th. I think in early May we'll know. But obviously we have to wait. So I think that was the plan to, as Jim said, and again, I tried to connect with you, Geraldine, if we could really kind of sit down and hammer out the details.
Yeah, because I think everybody needs to hear what we need based on what you said earlier or in your earlier email. You know,
Right.
We did not make this work well the last time we needed it, last August. So we need to pull in Tom and Chris and find out what their time constraints are, because I'm just guessing that, they should be doing their inspections a month ahead of us wanting them to issue the TCO. So, we need to pull in all the players to see what everybody absolutely needs for their time and
Right.
How we can kind of overlap.
And Jim, I didn't ask Tony that question. I didn't even think about it till Geraldine just mentioned it. Should Tom and Chris be part of that discussion?
I think, Dr. Carver, initially, we don't need them there. I don't think this is all going to be solved in one sit down. I think
Okay.
maybe the following Thursday meeting, we would have them involved, because then we'd have a much clearer picture for them. I think that, it's important that we all have a voice in it, but I think it's got to be organized when we present it to Tom and Chris as to this is what we can do. How does this work for you guys? And we go from there.
That actually sounds probably like a good idea to kind of have a better sort of construction plan before getting Tom and Chris, because then it just might be, them being a part of something that they don't need to be a part of yet, and bring them in, when you have things a little more organized.
Correct.
Okay. So I know that you sent out some schedules, Ken and Jim. Are those proposed, or are they kind of works in progress?
No, those, quite honestly, those are works in progress, because, things that are even happening, Rockwell is the unforgiving place. It sounds like a simple thing, but you're doing both kitchens simultaneously. One kitchen, now you have a patch of PCB concrete to deal with. The same kitchen, you now have 7 inches of concrete slab. Why on God's green earth they'd put a 7-inch slab in a kitchen? I don't know. But it's there. You're definitely running into things at Rockwell that you don't run into at Johnson. But I think what you'll see in the subsequent talks is more of an effect of a lot of, it sounds silly, but the COVID stuff is affecting even the productivity of people, because you walk through the building, people are talking about it still to this point almost constantly. So it's a very, it's got a lot of facets to it, believe it or not. And it's been a real problem, but it's one of the things we're fighting through. And I think if we can sit down and lay all of those things out, see what we have coming up against us this summer, I think we can come up with a game plan. It's just, it sounds like if somebody sat and told you back in early March, I'm going to close everything down and you can have it. It sounds like you just did a great thing. You just bought a month into your schedule. Well, the reality is the first shutdown was for 2 weeks. And then from there was another one. And so it sounds ridiculous, but even the choppiness of it makes it difficult to take full advantage of it. So it's great that we don't think they're coming back, but at the end of the day, if they do, we have to be prepared.
Right.
Right. Okay, so thanks for clarifying that. I was kind of looking at the schedules and thinking, and I know you did say it was, when you sent it out, it was a work in progress, but didn't know if you wanted to go too much into it tonight. And obviously you want to get some more information together before you start presenting it to us.
Yes.
All right, anything more on construction progress schedule, Ken and Jim?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, any questions from anybody to Ken and Jim?
Nancy?
Yeah.
Could they just give us a update on what percentage of each school is complete, that they think is complete?
Can they give a try?
Complete or in progress?
Well,
You've got,
well,
you've got a
where do you
significant,
feel you're at?
you got a significant.
Last
you
week
got a
you were
significant-
talking about you were thinking you're 60%.
We're
you've got
losing,
a significant. Oops, sorry.
we're losing you a little, Rich. So let's see what they have to say.
You've got a significant portion of both buildings that are under demolition right now. Thanks to Dr. Carver and her staff as far as trying to turn over as many of these spaces as possible. It's like I had said before, if I told you I was going to add a month to the schedule, you think it's great. It hasn't been perfect, but thanks to Dr. Carver, at least we're accomplishing something over there. So as far as the percentage complete, at this point with all of the areas that are under demolition, it's difficult to put a number, but if you want to say you're 55, 60% complete, that's probably about where you are.
And then Dr. Carver, you had sent an email about being concerned kind of on that tail end of the summer and being ready.
Right, and that's why I think we need to come together in that meeting on Thursday. So last summer was very problematic because people weren't on the same page about when the teachers were coming back, making sure that we had the TCOs, because things like we had a parent kindergarten orientation scheduled, and we were scrambling at the last minute. I had 150 parents going to show up the next morning, and things weren't done. So I sent out that date to be clear. This is when the August 28th, because we have so much movement and so much unpacking, we need a little more time than we typically would. So I wanted to be clear about what that date was. Not only to Rizzo, but to Tommy and to Chris, who have been wonderful, but just gives them a sense of what they have to do in terms of inspections to get the TCO. And then Geraldine, of course, needs to coordinate everything else behind that. So I just wanted to be clear about what the date was, because last year I wasn't, and I'll take ownership for that, because I don't think I even fully understood the dynamics about all of the things that were coming together. So that's why I sent the email, just to make sure that everybody knew that was really kind of the drop dead date, the August 28th, for my staff to get in and start unpacking.
And that means there have to be things moved over there to unpack,
Right.
and there has to be furniture to put the stuff on, and there has to be furniture to put the computers on. And so we take that date and we back up a whole bunch of tasks,
Right.
including the final inspections to get the TCO, which will happen, and any resolution of any issues that they identify happen concurrently with us. We have a lot more furniture moving in at the end of the summer than we did this past March. So we need that much more time to do all the other sort of occupancy tasks that need to happen.
Right.
And some of them can happen concurrently with finishing up finishes in
Right.
production or punch listing, but the major work has to be done because of the time it takes to resolve the commissioning issues and getting all the systems ready and yada, yada, yada. So yeah, so we'll go through what every party at this meeting at 1 o'clock on Thursday, we'll start talking about what each party needs to happen in order to meet that August 28th date. And from that, we can kind of build a master schedule.
Right. Because you got to remember, in this move, we're moving all of third grade too.
Right.
So we're not only moving just within the building and accepting furniture, but I got to move everything out of Berry School to Johnson School and all the stuff in Rockwell. So it's much more complex than what we had last summer.
And this is going to be the final move. Everything's going in its final place. And at that point, as Geraldine was saying, maybe there'll be punch list items and things like that, but there's going to be no major, hopefully anything we should be done.
Well, we have to get the buildings done so they can do all the site
That's
work.
what we need to discuss.
Right.
Yeah.
And if there's areas that aren't going to be done, we need to discuss that too.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. Sounds like you have a plan to make a plan.
Right.
That's right.
Good,
All right.
good. So anything else for Ken or Jim before we go into budget review? Geraldine sent out a new checking budget. So we're going to take a look at that, I guess. Yes, we are.
Let's, of course, I don't see it. How come I don't see it?
Right there.
I see it.
I see it too. It's right under invoices in Perkins Eastman.
Yeah, no, I was, oh, there it is. Okay, good. Okay. So just an update on the Johnson budget. I just wanted to highlight, so these documents, the budget was updated after the last meeting to account for all the invoices and the change orders approved. So I just wanted to highlight at Johnson where we are with contingency. Still a very healthy $1.573 million in the project contingency and $115,000 left in the environmental contingency. So Johnson's still doing pretty well. We did update line items for furniture technology and move expenses based on invoices that were approved at the last meeting. So you can always see where the balance is on those expenditures. That tracking of invoices, of course, doesn't change the amount budgeted within those line items, other than the change that we had to the move expenses line item last time, where we increased at both buildings the amount attributable to move expenses, which should get us through the early summer. And then we'll have to re-examine that for these big moves in August that we're talking about. So that's Rockwell, that's Johnson. Rockwell, here we have, again, on the contingency balance, obviously eating up more of the contingency at Rockwell. We have an owner's contingency remaining of $696,000. We have totally expended the $250 allocated for environmental contingency. So any future change orders that involve abatement and future monitoring expenses for Enviromed will draw from the owner's contingency. But we will continue to track them as a separate subject so that we can account at the end for how much money was spent on environmental issues.
And are there any of the moving expenses down below there as you're moving down that we had to add in there? Yeah, okay.
Yep, so we increased the move budget again. We have a total move budget here at Rockwell of $54,000, of which we've already expended $37,000. So the balance should get us through the next phase of moving everything out whenever we don't go back to school.
And the moving change came out of owner's contingency.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Those changes to the move line item come out of owner contingency.
And to add to it, I think it just because of the COVID and social distancing and not having staff in the building was part of the reason it had to happen that way too. Because if we had had teachers in the building, they would have done the majority of the packing. Right. And so it really shifted to the project because we just didn't have the people to do it.
That's right. And we'll see that again in this next phase. If we don't go back to school, all the classrooms do still need to be packed in order to move them out so that we can do the renovation in the classroom areas.
Right.
Yeah.
Christine, is that freaking your teachers out that they can't pack their
own?
Oh,
you have no idea. But I can't trust them, and I told them that because they won't. They will congregate and bring their children, and so it's just not safe to do it right now.
Right. Yep. Okay. So any questions for Geraldine on the tracking budgets? I actually I have questions, but they'll be part of a little further down, so we'll wait for that. And John, you had a question?
Yeah, I have one question. On the Johnson School, do we have any more rooms that is covered with carpeting that we may have to look for asbestos tiling?
I don't think so. Bob, do you?
Not that we know of.
Yeah.
And how are we sitting with Rockwell with that? We're pretty everything's been identified that we know of right now?
You're gonna
Not,
have
yeah.
at Rockwell.
You're gonna have what?
You're gonna have that one room at Rockwell. Remember we had to put the carpet squares down for it?
Yes.
There actually are 4 areas at Rockwell that are undergoing additional testing for PCBs, all based on the same issue, that mastic from other flooring may have leached PCBs into concrete. So all of those areas are being tested or have been tested. All of those areas are part of this grinding down of the concrete exercise that's going on currently. Some of it was in the gym, but there was a classroom, there's the admin workroom.
Right.
There was a 4th area that slips my mind now, might have been cafeteria, not sure. So all of those areas are going to be retested and with a confirmation that we've eradicated the PCBs. Which is not to say that something else might not come up, but we don't think it'll be in flooring. We continue to deal with, other PCB related issues with just the cutting and patching demolition. We talked about we're talking with the abatement contractor about the change order for the PCB overspray on the ductwork on the 1st floor. If you recall, we did the 2nd floor. We're still working on the 1st floor. So there is ongoing abatement. There is future abatement that we're going to have to take care of, account for, and that some of it will draw down on the owner's contingency going forward.
So especially Rockwell, we're going to have to really tighten our belts and manage that, because that $696,000 is going to go rather quickly. I mean, if we're at 60% now, let's say 60%, knock on wood, hopefully, would anticipated additional abatement with PCBs or asbestos, and it seems like we're always getting a change order for this, a change order for that, which is understandable. We can chew through that money rather quickly, so we got to be really careful, really careful.
Well, if we're in, I think, that's a good question to look at. I don't know. We spent 250 of the environmental, and we're 50-60% through. I can't imagine. Well, we could go through another 250 with the rest, but I know that at one point we talked about a lot of the environmental areas in Rockwell had been identified, and we were kind of in pretty good shape with that. Yet there's no guarantees.
Right.
Geraldine.
Hi, Terry.
Hi. So you brought up something interesting. I think would you be able to keep a separate offline tracking of costs that we can link directly back to COVID? Because, Costas was open to us at the end of the project if we had issues having to do with environmental. But I'm going to say there would be a chance that, because every meeting we're at is about the impact of COVID on all costs in our operations, I wonder if he might be a little more lenient. How we have to balance the projects as to some of those costs being acceptable.
I think that's a great idea, Terry.
And we are, and so we are as a team, and I know Rizzo is looking at their additional costs. We'll be able to, obviously we can document direct costs. So for instance, we have a proposal for the additional cleaning costs that have to happen now every 2 days, and
right
on the porta-johns, and then cleaning, doing extra cleaning on surfaces within. So we're tracking that separately. I think it's probably also going to be a good exercise at some point to try to identify indirect costs from the COVID-19 issue, and probably also from the environmental issue. Every time we have to stop work to test and to abate, there's a schedule impact that also has a cost effect. So on both of those issues, yeah, we're going to definitely check the hard costs, and at some point we'll probably try to put together an overall impact cost.
And the moving costs for sure, as you mentioned, that's what raised it up, because
Right.
we would never have anticipated not having our own teachers in the building to pack their own boxes.
Right.
So there are some additional costs because we have to distance and we are not allowed back in the buildings.
And we would have had a different phasing even of the moves if we had
Correct.
out of school and then maybe not out of school and
Right.
then emptying the rest of school. So that will be part of the analysis.
And they may argue back that we've had the advantage now of the kids being out of our staff and kids being out of the building, but there are some direct costs related to this. Never mind the supply chain.
Right. Something
Impact.
else that we're tracking.
Yes.
Materials, reduction in crews. We had one of the IT vendors suspended work for 2 weeks when their foreman had to be quarantined. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into those cost considerations.
I think we might have some good standing for that.
I do too.
Okay, any other questions, comments on budget right now?
It's just a comment. I did do a filing with the state. So Terry and Geraldine were great to put it together. So I did it for both projects this week.
And that you sent those along too, I think the letters that went, or were those?
That was different, right?
Yeah, that's different. That's that was the next thing on the agenda anyways.
Okay. Oh, that's the FF&E and the approval. And
Yeah.
So should we move on?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Thanks.
So so furniture package B was finally approved by the state for each school. We finished all the approval paperwork with Office of School Construction Grants and Review. It's up on the screen, and we also posted both copies, gave us authorization to go to bid with this furniture phase. Those bid documents were posted to the town website and to the state portal as of Monday. Legal notices ran in the paper, so the RFPs for the balance of all of the furniture in each school is out there. They were released yesterday. We have a 3-week bid period, and I think if I recall correctly, the pricing is due back on May 18th. So that's just sort of in progress right now. As part of that exercise with the state, we were able to update some of the other documents that they require. And as an aside, I should also say we also got an approval of the first 2 state change orders that had been submitted with a couple of corrections that I need to make. Not that something was ineligible that shouldn't have been, but just the way I filled out the forms has to change going forward. So, but that was good news. So the 2 change orders, the 2 first change orders have been approved. So are there any questions about the furniture?
Just
bids?
hope that the numbers stay in line like the first set did.
The first package did come in under the cost estimates, and I think we're thinking that these will track similarly. All of the RFPs were also sent electronically directly to all the vendors that we had respond to the first package. So we're hoping to get a good response on this set.
And it will be one of the first times, I think, the entire bid opening will be virtual and the submissions electronic, and
yes,
whole change in the process.
Sort of had to adjust the way the town procures, right? So get an agreement to not accept any hard copies, but accept it all by email, and then do a Zoom meeting to open the emails instead of open the bids.
Yes.
So,
Interesting.
yeah, it'll be good.
Okay. Any questions on any of the that phase of the procurement of FF&E? Good. Moving on to the next section.
So the next thing that we left on the agenda from last week was the discussion of the Perkins Eastman additional services request.
Right. So I have some questions, and that I feel like we need to have, or at least in my mind, before we can move forward with any sort of plan or et cetera. So this would be probably more to Joe and Joe. So when, we discussed it last time, we discussed it the time before, and questions keep coming up. So I just want to clarify some things, and others may have questions too. Your initial amounts that were accepted and are the contracted amounts, were they based on, what time frame were they based on as far as when you put those figures together? You were looking at the whole project. What kind of a time frame were they based on?
This is Joe Costa speaking.
Hi.
Hi. They were based, I believe, on 2 years of construction phase services. I don't have that paperwork in front of me, but that's what my recollection was.
And so that, as I'm remembering, and others can jump in and kind of help me remember, our original, back to when we were putting figures together, trying to get everything together to go to referendum, et cetera. I think we were looking at not finishing in September 2020, but in December 2020. Am I remembering that correctly? Christine's nodding her head. But I can't see everybody, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So the reason I ask is that if your figures were based on that, and now we're looking at finishing in September 2020, that helps me at least kind of look at some figures, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at the budget
Nancy,
earlier.
Nancy, the project runs through December.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And can I ask another clarifying question? Is the handling of the playground and FF&E, that's all separate, right, from the original contract?
It is. It's a separate
Okay.
agreement that we put together.
Okay.
Right. So I'm sorry.
We always knew that would extend beyond
Yeah.
the construction phase.
Right. And so the remaining portions of the contract that I think either Jim or Ken mentioned was the restoration of the site work.
Right.
Right. So the majority of the construction work is supposed to be done this summer in time for September opening.
We're still in the building at Johnson in the music area through the end of October.
Okay, so that's still in the schedule there, at least in Johnson. Yet there's still going to be, both at Rockwell and Johnson, site stuff going on possibly through December.
But the site stuff is mostly tied to the playgrounds and the outside landscaping, correct?
Yes.
Which is a separate contract.
The playgrounds are, but the actual site work is part of the base contract.
Right.
Yeah.
So the installation of the playgrounds, the procurement and installation of the playgrounds are part of that separate contract, but the site work to get all that ready is part of the base contract.
Okay.
Correct.
That was one of the questions I had. Okay.
Okay. So, and that's the schedule, okay? And any other questions on that part? So then in looking at, when we had the tracking budgets up earlier, we were looking at how much is left in owner's contingency and how much is left in environmental contingency. And while it sort of seems like we have hefty amounts left, at Rockwell, as we said, the owners or the environmental contingency is gone. So we've got to expect that we could, so that, is that Rockwell up there, Geraldine? Yes. So that's Rockwell.
Yes.
And that 696 that's left, we could easily almost expect that perhaps half of that may get eaten up in some environmental things, but we don't really know. And there's a lot of other unknowns that we're still going to have to deal with. And then for Johnson, We still have a chunk left in environmental. There weren't as many environmental issues at Johnson, so we could still have a good amount at Johnson that we could use. And looking at the tracking budget also, so, and that's Johnson, correct?
Correct.
Yes. So if we look at, we can scroll a little bit for where the architect fees are. So so the architect fee just for the construction part is 1.5 there.
Correct.
And we've paid out 1.4 already. So we still owe Perkins Eastman about 94,000.
Right.
And so, and this is the question to Joe Costa, so I hope I can understand. The proposal that you had put together is an amount for Johnson, an amount not to exceed $184,800. So is that $184,800 on top of the 94 that we still owe you?
Yes. So it's an increase in the overall construction phase services.
Okay.
That's what that would represent.
And is that kind of the same idea at Rockwell where the numbers are different, but it's that same idea where there's the amount not to exceed, but we still owe you 45,000, almost 46,000. The amount not to exceed 123 would be on top of that.
Correct.
Okay.
Nancy,
Sure, go ahead.
it's Roy. I think there's a lot of numbers here that we still have to go through. I'm still a little bit uncomfortable that we can't get an accounting of where we are, especially bearing in mind where we are in the project. And, looking for that amount of extra, I'm obviously concerned. I really do believe that we have to, have a special meeting with Marty to review this with the contract, in mind, so that we can all feel very comfortable if we're going to proceed along this line. But I really would like to get a interpretation from Marty as far as which way we should be going.
Well, I think that we need to have some, I think I did email Marty. We're going to need to have some kind of an idea from him as far as how, if it was a change to the contract, how legally that would be done. Yet, I think for us as a commission, we may need to do some other planning. That's why I wanted to ask these. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this tonight because we kind of got a whole lot of questions going on last time. We got a lot of answers, but that's why these questions came up for me, and there may be other questions other people need answers. We may need to maybe even have a subcommittee that gets together and puts some planning together for some numbers, for some ideas, etc. We did hear from Geraldine, actually twice, that the percentage of the contract or the amount of the contract of what the architect's fees is for both projects, for both Rockwell and Johnson, is somewhat lower than what you would normally see, which she would know, most of us wouldn't. And so we need to take a lot of different things into consideration so we can continue to move forward. How can we solve this issue? We can't just keep looking at it and just throwing a bunch of money at it doesn't feel right to me either. So we're going to need to, I think maybe.
Could we do it through a special meeting with Marty? Just, the group, I'd prefer to have all of us involved with this.
Okay, but I think we need to go through it first with some sort of plan before we bring Marty in, because all Marty's going to say is, what's the contract say? He's not going to know the numbers. He's not going to know the issues surrounding the numbers, how we got here, etc. So I think we need to have a meeting first.
Okay, I agree.
Do we have all the, Nancy, I apologize. I wasn't at the last meeting, as you know. And so I'm not caught up with all my reading of the documents, but do we have, to Roy's point, do we have something from Perkins that lists how they went beyond the scope based on what they bid in the contract, like where they perceived that money was spent that was above and beyond. Do we have that now?
No.
But don't you think we have to have that before we, Geraldine, I'm going to ask you, don't we have to have that before we can even have that conversation?
Yes, it was something that we discussed at the last meeting about, I think it was Roy that said, where did the money go? So yes, to understand I think the ask is what tasks and how much time were spent on those tasks that were beyond the scope of their original contract.
Right.
That led to expending all of the money already and needing to ask for more. So part of it is understanding what work was unknown when they set their fee, couldn't have been anticipated, and what work has been done that's been outside of their scope of services that ate up all the extra time. So I think that those were two things that we asked. I think one thing Joe came back and said that they don't have that information. I think they don't document their time in that way. So all they know is that the hours have been expended, but can't go back and recreate the tasks that the hours were spent on. Am I?
Yeah,
correctly, Joe?
Yeah, let me clarify. Our letter lists a number of areas where the design and technical team spent more time than was anticipated when we wrote this contract. And so Geraldine is right. We do not track every single hour that's spent on CA services, and trying to recreate that for work that was done a year ago would be nothing more than a fiction and probably inaccurate. So it's very difficult for us, or if not impossible, for us to assign hours for all of the different pieces and parts of this project and try to recreate retroactively how we got to this position. We just can't do it because we don't track our hours in that manner. So when Joe or other team members perform CA services, they don't separate submittals or RFIs or site visits or, issuing sketches or all of the hundreds of different things that we do during CA and track those hours separately. It's just not something that we do.
Hey, Joe.
Joe, the paragraph that you included in your request for additional services, though, is fairly generic. I mean, it basically lists every area of work that an architect spends time on during the project. And so without understanding whether it was, too many site visits, and I know that this is not true, but like too many site visits to examine existing conditions of the work that changed the project. I think what we're looking for is more specificity in these areas. And yes, even a guess on how many RFIs did you think you were going to have to read and answer versus how many we've actually had 60% through the project. I mean, I think we're looking for more detail.
Well, I think if the committee would accept us to put our heads together collectively and identify blocks of time associated with parts of this project, I think it may go a long way to help explain where some of this extra time went. And therefore you guys can identify whether it's a merited ad service or not. I think we can probably do that. But again, it's a matter of going way back and tracking what occurred when. We're going to have to look at the submittal log. We're going to have to look at the RFI log. We're going to have to look at the dates of sketches. We're going to have to look at the meeting minutes and try to recreate, in essence, 13 or 14 months of work. And certainly if you're asking for that, if that's something that will help us get to where we need to go, we'll do it.
Joe, I don't think we need, I mean, if you're talking about just at construction administration,
yes.
Is that 13, 14 months of?
Well, when did we start construction on this job?
March.
So it's 13 months.
Okay, so is there?
End of February 2019 was when we started receiving submittals.
Oh, end of February.
Okay,
so March. Yes,
Are we-
13 months.
Is there a way to look at it, at least in general, through percentages to start? Like if you could say 60% was this, and
Yeah, I think the person that's most intimate with all of those activities would be Joe Collada. And so it's a matter of him and I and some of the other team members to sit down in a room or virtually
Yeah,
and try to recreate this by reading the documents and, you know, tracking the paper trail, because there's a very broad paper trail associated with construction projects. And so what we can do is, you know, moving from now to the past, we can take our you know, our best professional opinion on where the hours were spent. Now, obviously, a good portion of that time is assigned to basic services and would be owned by us as part of the basic service contract for CA services. Those are not the items that we're going to identify. We're going to identify those items that we would consider over and beyond the basic services or beyond the normal call of duty.
But Joe, I mean, I think that's reasonable request, because I mean, I'm stepping into this conversation, but if I were this committee, I don't know how they could just accept without having that information and be able to work through that any type of increase, because it'd be, you know, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I'm going to say it anyways, and I probably will regret it. But it's kind of like Ferguson. Every issue we've had with Ferguson, like, did you underbid the project and then you're charging us now on the end? And I'm not saying you are, but your percentage was significantly lower than a lot of the others, and you know that.
Yeah, Dr. Carver, let me speak to that. I don't know what my competitors bid.
Well, I can tell you.
I don't really care. I don't care, because it has no bearing on how I bid this project or how I looked at the services or the fees associated with serving, you know, the town of Bethel. That's irrelevant to this conversation.
It's not irrelevant, because
it is irrelevant, because I think what's important to, it's not. I think what's important here is what we anticipated and what the normal standard of care and professional services are associated with a project of this type.
So they need to the details.
And I think, Joe, that irrelevant may be the wrong word to use, because to us it's very relevant.
It is.
And there was a committee that looked at all the different architects who submitted bids and went through them and did interview processes, etc. I know I wasn't part of that committee. I know John Perna was, and a few others. And they took it very seriously and chose you. And, you know, we're getting great results in the building, et cetera, but I think irrelevant is not a good word to use.
I hope
we still, Joe, let me finish. We as a committee represent the town of Bethel, who have put their great trust in us, and we're going to get shit, basically, if we make changes without having good documentation. And because that's happened in the past, we've even with good documentation, we get shit. So we've got to have as much information before making, and we could probably go ahead and maybe say, oh, this is going to work, but maybe we negotiate some of the costs, etc. But we need to have that information, and we need to have some way of justifying. And I have to use somebody else's word here, your nebulous list, without numbers and more specifics associated with the list in that paragraph of the different things, which we understand and we've talked about. I don't see that we can go any further with this. And I know that we asked last week also about timing. And I know your letter says you were just notified by your accounting department, but somebody has had to know this long before. And how could we have gotten into this a while ago and talked about it to create some changes, to do something differently? So there's two things we need. One is some more specificity. And again, how did you not know?
And Nancy, I agree with you. And Same thing on the bidding. I'm very concerned on that. We picked you because of your services and also the bid. And, if all of a sudden we end up with a much higher number on this, maybe this wasn't the low bid. And then we are really open for criticism.
Not for anything. I've been around for a long time. You guys have a great reputation. And again, I'm just, to Nancy's point, I'm having a hard time following how we're at this point. And I know you said there's peaks and valleys, just like with the corona. I completely understand it. Been around this for 30 years. But how you did not know, or your accounting department didn't know, that you were cutting it really, really razor close until a month or so ago is troublesome. And going forward, my question is, okay, say we have to go back, we do get more money. How do we know that this won't happen again? What is your guarantee that if we go back to the town and put our tail between our legs and take an ass kicking?
We're not going back to the town.
Yeah, that's not happening.
This is coming out of owner's contingency, or it's coming out of somewhere in the project. We cannot ask for more money.
Okay, well then, to that point, how do we know this won't happen again?
Right. So Joe, if we're going to go forward with this, and we're going to have another meeting or 2 or 3, not specifically during these meetings, but have some special meetings of the commission, et cetera, where perhaps we have you there and whoever else needs to be there. We need that information. We need, I don't know as you need to look at every single document. Perhaps you're looking at some general, and in looking at your list of, the big one obviously being coordination. Are we looking at 60% was coordination and 30% was unknown and 10% was, if you can put some numbers to it, that would help us a lot.
It's understood. And as I mentioned, Joe and I will sit down and look through the documentation and put our best understanding in front of you in a kind of a succinct document, and we'll go from there.
That sounds like a great plan.
Yeah, because, obviously I just want to make a statement that, we're not here to create a conflict or to have the committee or the town lose confidence in the work we're doing, or abrogate our responsibilities to meet the contract, or to, to put any schedule in jeopardy. That is certainly not our intent, and nor do we do our business that way. And it's our intent to always stay your trusted advisor and make sure this project gets successfully completed, because this is an important project. You're an important committee and an important town to us. Nothing we do or don't do will put that in jeopardy.
Well, and we have seen that you've not changed any of your processes or any of the progress with the work, et cetera. So that continues along. So, we appreciate that, and we know that you'll be good with that. So if we can get some more information, that's going to help us make our decision and also justify it.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you for your consideration.
Yes, thank you,
Nancy and committee.
Anything else? Any other questions though for Joe and Joe before we get on to the next stuff? Are there any discussion from last week? And the initial discussion of the proposal? I know we asked for more detail of how the money was, not how the money was spent before, but how it would be spent going forward. So they gave us their hourly rates, et cetera, and amounts not to exceed. And I think somebody asked last meeting whether it covered any possible needs for your different, the word escaped my head. Your different, the MEP people and the
consultants.
Your consultants, your engineers, et cetera. And I believe you said that there could be, as I know
those proposals would cover those asks as well.
So anything that might come from structural engineer or whatever would be covered there, and in your amount not to exceed.
That's correct.
It wouldn't be additional.
Correct.
Christine,
Nancy?
question?
Just, so the amounts, also I think for consideration, and somebody can fill me in later if you talked about this last time, the amounts that you did come up with, is that how you anticipate that you think that you're going to be spending your time? So you came up with a dollar amount for each project. And if you talked about this last time, you can somebody else can fill me offline. How did you come up with that?
That was based on the rate of burn that we experienced on average since the beginning of the job. So that amount was the overage above the amount that was allocated on an average weekly basis for the entire duration of the job. Does that answer your question?
Christine, does that help?
It's essentially an assumption that you're going to spend the same amount of time per month going forward that you did over the past 12 months.
Yeah, and we're hoping, obviously, that does not occur. And as we complete the job, we expect that amount to go down, except perhaps the last week or so on the project when we're doing punch lists and getting the closeouts ready.
So that's why it's an amount not to exceed. You're looking at the amount that you've been expending over the past 13 months.
Yes.
And looking that it could possibly be that, it could be less.
Yeah, we're hoping that it's less. And what we said in the letter is that we would detail precisely what activities we're spending our hours on
Going forward.
going forward.
And we will have that in each of the, once you gave us a bill for the next month. That
Correct.
would be detailed in the bill.
Right. So that there could be questions, discussions about any hour that was spent on that particular invoice.
Okay.
And because the activities would be fresh in everyone's mind, a highly detailed discussion could happen on every hour that was spent on the projects.
Okay. Any other questions for Joe and Joe? Rich?
Nancy?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, there was a lot of information prior to this going out to bid. I mean, you had hired consultants to go in and look at the building, and you know, we knew how bad Rockwell School was, and we knew the condition of Johnson School. You know, it's hard to understand why they bid the job so low, knowing that these were renovating as new and the potential of a lot of questions coming up about the condition of those two schools. So I would be glad to see what Joe is proposing to try to go through and detail some of those extras that so you can look at them. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Anything else from
I
anyone?
do have a question.
Okay.
I do have a question, and I guess my question is for both Joes is, being that this is to fees to see the project basically to the end, do you think that the burn rate is going to be the same as what it is in the beginning of the job when you're not there answering questions and we're not figuring out where things have to go?
I certainly hope not, John.
Yeah.
I hope that we can get to the finish line without these kinds of expenditures.
Which is why I think you have that amount not to exceed, correct?
Yeah. I mean, you know, there's going to be weeks, obviously, where we're going to be called upon to spend a lot more time in Bethel. And hopefully the subsequent week will be a lot less.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So I'm sorry, I had to step away. I see that the not to exceed. Is there going, like I asked last time, is there going to be some kind of accounting going forward to cover this? That we know, like, okay, you spent X amount of time on site and.
Yeah, the intention is to provide to the building committee a detailed accounting of what hours were spent on what tasks.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Great. Awesome.
Okay. But so just to clarify something you just said, Joe, about spending time in Bethel, you're really not spending any time here right now, right?
I'm sorry, that was a figure of speech.
Got it.
Although I believe John is still attending site visits. Is that correct, Joe?
He will be. We're getting ready to punch list Rockwell's second floor.
Okay. And this is after what, 3 o'clock or something?
Yes, it'd be after 3 o'clock. Socially distanced, masks, all the recommended guidelines.
Yeah, I mean, I think I sent both of you an email. He hasn't been coming, but you're saying now he is going to come?
Yeah, we have to figure out when we're going to do that punch list. And we've talked to Geraldine about that, and potentially if you're going to go back and occupy by 5:20, then we'd be doing it before then. And if it's going to be at the start of school next year, then we would probably just punch list the entire building at one time. But we,
Now, not trying to be a wise ass in all seriousness, is this overtime if you come after 3 p.m. and work till like 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m.?
no.
Okay.
No, there's no overtime in our profession.
I know there really truly isn't, but I want it out there. I'm sorry. I'm just CYA.
Okay, thanks, David.
Nancy,
Yes.
this is Melanie. I just have a question that I'm looking at the supplemental fee proposal language. The last sentence of the paragraph says, please note the supplemental allocation request does not include the CFA services fee overages expended thus far. So is there going to be some additional change order in addition to the 184.8?
I can answer that. The answer is no. So even though we've been performing services in the red, and I don't have the exact month, I think it was February, we're not adding that to our ad service proposal.
Okay. And the same, obviously, with Rockwell.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Melanie. It's a good point. All right. Anybody else have anything else for Joe? And Joe, on this, we have some more work to do as a committee, and information. We're going to get information from them, and go from there. So we're going to move on in the agenda if we don't have any other questions. If you do think of questions, they can be emailed. You can email them, including me, to Joe and Joe, and we can make sure that information gets out to the rest of the commission. Otherwise, they can, if it's stuff they have to gather, they can do that before we meet again. So I think our next section is proposed change order review. Geraldine, do we have any?
Well, we do not, because of this, the only proposed change order we were going to review was the proposed cost to abate the floor tile in the admin area at Johnson. But since we're still unclear as to what testing had previously been done, whether it does in fact include asbestos and need to be abated, I think that we want to postpone the discussion on this change order until we have that information.
Is that the environment proposal that you sent?
No, so that would be the next thing I'm going to talk about.
That's a different thing.
There was a specific proposed change order from Rizzo. What I've got up on the screen right now is the change order, the PCO log. So you'll see the last one here on the list was about $14,000 to do the abatement in the admin area. But I'm proposing that we not review that until we have clarity on whether that area has previously been tested.
So Bob's going to check his files and go from there.
Correct, and we'll go back and take a look at the abatement documents. But the basis of the change order was that the document said that there was no tile under this area of carpeting, and in fact there is tile, but we'll look further into whether the tile was tested previously.
Okay.
So the other change order is not related specifically to construction. We have been talking with Rizzo over the last couple of weeks about additional air testing at Rockwell due to the debris that has fallen from the roof onto the top of the ceiling at the second floor. So apparently Rizzo has had requests from a couple of subcontractors requesting documentation that either there is no health risk, there's no PCBs, there's no asbestos in that debris and in the air, or there is, or, so we've gone back and forth. I've spent some time chatting with Enviromed, and they have provided, so they did testing on the air and on debris during roof demolition, but they just did testing for asbestos. So we had provided Rizzo with those test results, obviously, that there was no asbestos in the roofing material. But there is the, there is, I guess, the chance that there might be PCB in the debris above the ceiling. And we asked Enviromed for the best way to analyze that. And their recommendation was to, as you can see in the proposal, send 2 technicians for 8 hours. They would take debris sampling from on top of those ceiling tiles and have that tested. And then while they're up there, they would wear air monitoring equipment that would then give them a reading for what's actually in the air in that area above the second floor. So this is a proposal to actually do that testing, $2,700. I don't really have a recommendation on this. My personal feeling is that the reason that we have this question about debris in the air is because of the means and methods that the contractors used to demo the roof and to not protect the second floor that was already finished, and that debris fell into the second floor. Now we have to do cleaning of the area on top of those ceiling tiles. My initial thought is that this might not be an owner's responsibility, that it might be a contractor responsibility to have kept that space clean during demo. But I think that that's probably part of the discussion.
So it's the area, those are new ceiling tiles in place. That's a new ceiling that's in place. This is up on the second floor where everything's complete.
Correct.
And furniture's in place.
Correct.
So, and the roof was being ripped apart and nobody thought about trying to protect.
Well, if I could, what you have is you have a roof that's been re-roofed several times. So there are pinholes in that roof. There are areas where you have new RTU units, so you have metal decking that's cut back, so there were gaps in those areas. The areas where the units were cut back, yes, those are areas that you can see, they can be anticipated, they can be cleaned up, they shouldn't be falling down. But the areas where you're getting through the pinholes in the deck, there's no physical way to stop that from falling onto those ceiling tiles. And the ceiling tiles at least make it manageable so you can clean it up.
Well, so I'm guessing, this is an educated guess. I'm thinking that school can't start with all that crap up there.
And there's no intention for that. It'll be cleaned up. The question is coming up from the trades who are saying, we want proof that these areas are not a hazard to anyone.
So Jim, do you think that would be a good idea for the trades to know this, and so that you could go ahead and take care of having that done?
Well, absolutely. And I think that, cleaning it up is not an issue. That's ongoing. That's going to happen. It's being able to satisfy, it's almost a trick question when someone says to you, well, how do you know that's not hazardous? So are you gonna tell us that's not hazardous? So you find yourself in a position that you can't win.
Yeah. So
$2,700, I think we make a motion that we approve to have it tested.
I'll second that.
So my question, all right, so we got a motion and a second. My question would be, is that coming out of our contingency or theirs?
Our contingency is fine. It's an unexpected thing. I mean, it's not that common. I'm comfortable with it. I really am.
And Jim, what you're saying is this is going to give some of the trades some peace of mind, whether anything more has to happen. But you're also going to either work on creating more protection, or you're going to clean it up all really well before school starts.
Correct.
Can I ask one quick question? What if this comes back positive? How much of this stuff is there and what might have to be remediated?
A good question. And how's that going to be done?
And yeah, if you've sprayed that whole Q decking of that whole floor, I can't remember off the top of my head how many square feet it is, but if that comes back positive, was this ever checked? And again, I'm new, so I'm asking, is this something that was tested prior to everybody, to this whole thing starting, or was this something that was missed?
No, you have on the schedule, you have a PCB paper layer on the roof. And
Yeah.
under that, you have a mastic that seals that roof is a Hosmerhagen. It doesn't have, I don't think anyone would want to claim it. But you have that material under the paper. So the only thing that we were told was PCB was the paper itself. You have asbestos at the flashing, but that's at the perimeter of the building.
So if it stays encapsulated, we're okay. It's only when you penetrate the roofing product, that's when we have the problem?
It's all non-friable. It's what's happening is you have, from the multiple nails driven through the roof deck, you have small holes that dust does come through into the space above the ceiling and onto the ceiling tile itself.
Okay, and this is just a general question. Is this if we go down the road in a few years and redo the roof and have to rip all this stuff up, does anyone know if this is going to be part of that? Like, would that be something we'd have to plan for in advance?
No, once they're done up there, it's abated.
Okay, and that's for the whole roof though?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
When they take the roof off and before they put the new roof on, is all that dust vacuumed out of the corrugated roofing decking? Because if you still have nail holes and you put the new roofing on without that being clean, that dust is going to filter down through the nail holes for the rest of the life of the building. And
they use a leaf blower.
Contaminate.
They
do clean it before they. Okay, so
Yeah,
it is
that's
clean before.
They need to get the proper adhesion for the new roof and to get the manufacturer's warranty on the roof.
I'm sorry, I gotta ask this question. You just said they use a leaf blower to blow off the friable debris?
Yeah.
It's non-friable.
It's non-friable. It's how they have to make sure they don't have any particles when they're putting the roof together. Similar like when they're putting the insulation down, they have to make sure that they don't have anything under the rubber.
And the particles, they could be roofing insulation. They're not, the only thing that was an issue there is the tar paper itself.
I completely understand that. My concern is, again, there's bits and pieces that Rich brought up, like how do we not know that something isn't going to come back and bite us in the ass? After it's blown off the roof, they clean up and that's great, it's great. And then somebody decides to take a sample off the ground and they find something. I know I'm being like really overly judgmental on this and being, overly cautious, but in this day and age, we just have to cover ourselves.
Hey, Nancy, I have a question.
Sure.
It's probably for Jim or Ken. Are those roofs used as plenums? I'm sorry, are those ceilings used as plenums?
No.
Okay.
That's a good thing.
I was going there next, Bob. Good question.
Great minds think alike.
Okay, any other questions on this? And we are understanding that in accepting this, it's coming out of our non-existing environmental contingency.
It's a good thing to have tested, Nancy.
Okay, I'm just,
Well,
making sure everybody's clear where it's all coming from. And so we have a motion on the floor, which has been seconded. We're having our discussion. Any other discussion, questions?
I'm done.
We're ready to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Is anybody opposed? Okay, that carries. And then since we have this proposal, Geraldine, does something have to do with it? Like, do we have to sign it or whatever, or is it just?
No, I can just authorize them to go ahead and do the work. And then when the invoice comes, that'll be the second round of approval of that amount.
And that'll be part of a change order.
Well, it'll just be an invoice, because it's environmental, it'll just be, this proposal will go on record and then the invoices will be.
All right, because it's coming out of our
Correct.
Contingency. It's not coming out of the.
Right, it won't be booked like a
Be a
construction.
change to the GMP. Okay. All right, so now we have any other change orders to discuss, or are we going right into invoices and?
Right to invoices.
Okay. So we don't have a ton like we did last time, but we do have a few that we have to go through. I don't know if you want to throw them up there, or if you just want me to read them and.
Sure, pick it and I'll throw it up there.
Okay, so I have Enviromed Services. This is for what school? Rockwell? No, Johnson School. I think there's 2 Enviromed ones.
There should be 3 Enviromed ones.
Okay. I actually printed them all so I could sign them and give them to Kathy. So let me just check. Mason. Yep. I just want to make sure as we approve each one, I check it off so I sign the right ones and get the right numbers in. Yep. So there's one really long one and then there's a couple of shorter ones.
Yep.
So again, this one is, which one do you have up there?
Johnson?
And is that the really long one?
No,
That's the short one.
short one. Number
Okay.
18785.
So I make a motion that we approve from Enviromed Services invoice number 18785, dated April 20, 2020 for Johnson School in the amount of $3,042.60.
Second.
I'll second it.
I think, yeah, I got Dave Olson's hand first, whoever Kathy got. And so this is just ongoing.
This is at Johnson in the kitchen areas to monitor during flooring removal. And also the one tack board in the second floor that was discovered.
That was found. Okay. Any questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Does anybody say no? Anybody opposed? That one's done. Next one. These 2 are for Rockwell, I believe.
Correct. The shorter one.
Yep. So I make a motion that we approve invoice number 18770 dated April 15, 2020 for Rockwell School in the amount of $8,732.20.
Second.
And Dave did a second, and PCB sampling in the areas where the concrete floor was exposed. Was that the one you were talking about with the mastic?
This is the gym. Yeah, this is the gym where we knew we were going to take out the tar paper, but it turned out the mastic was also full of PCBs. And so we had to sample the concrete below in order to make sure that we had got it all, which we did not.
Did it have to get ground down or?
They're grinding, or they either are grinding or just finished grinding. So this was the original sampling that told us we needed to grind the concrete.
And then once they finish that, they're gonna have to test it again.
We'll sample again.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, any questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
opposed? Done. And then the last one, which is a whole lot of pages.
So this is, this is the entire month of Well, it's March and April and into April, air monitoring.
And that's all Rockwell.
Yep.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve invoice number 18796 dated April 23, 2020 for the whole month. Ms. Geraldine said air monitoring, it's $13,088.20.
Second.
Dave seconds. It's a lot of air monitoring, but it had to be done.
A lot of area. A lot of different areas.
Any questions on this?
I don't know. I'm just curious. It's 90 miles away every single time.
That's correct.
That's part of it.
No,
Okay.
I get it. Okay. Thank
I
you.
know.
Yep. They could come and stay for cheaper probably, but,
Mhm.
so any other questions on this?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Then we have some FF&E ones, correct?
Correct.
WB Mason?
Yep.
Yep. So I make a motion that we approve this invoice from WB Mason, invoice number 208307864 for Johnson School. This is part of the FF&E on the amount of $7,600.80.
Second.
Dave seconds. Any questions on this? This is stuff all that's been delivered, correct?
Correct. This is the last invoice for furniture at Johnson School for the initial package A.
Okay. Any questions on this?
Well, yeah, I have one question. Any back order? Everything's delivered, right?
Johnson is all delivered. That's correct. Even the, actually, it was these carts, these mobile carts that were not back ordered, but they were a little delayed. So yes, everything at Johnson is there.
Okay.
Good. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? And that one carries. And then we have environmental systems, a couple from them. I think there's two for Johnson and
One for, and only one for Rockwell, because yes, they suspended work at one point and so did not have anything to bill on AV install or on security install at Rockwell.
right. So the one Rockwell is just for FF&E.
It's just for, yes, audiovisual equipment, display boards.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve invoice from Environmental Systems Corporation, invoice number 1185822 in the amount of 252,000.
No.
No, 41,000.
41,500.
Correct.
That's why I was looking at the other page because that's got the amount. Okay.
I make a motion, we pay.
So I mentioned I need a second.
Second it. Me,
Who was that?
David Horvath.
Okay, thank you, David. Any questions on this? Is this complete their part of Rockwell or are we still?
No, they're not complete. This was for work done on the second floor, just that phase. The second floor media center, but their video display boards, all those monitors are installed. They've been tested. And that's, so the balance of their work will be in the first floor of the rest of the school in the center.
Got it. Okay. Any questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're good? Okay. And the other two for Johnson are both environmental systems. One is FF&E and the other one is security.
Correct.
So we'll do the FF&E one first. I make a motion that we approve the invoice from Environmental Systems Corp. For Johnson School, invoice number 1185823 in the amount of $42,578. Somebody second?
Second it.
Second it.
Whole bunch of people seconded it. Pick one, Kathy.
I give it a go.
Any questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. And then the last one from Environmental Systems Corp. Invoice number 1185806 is for security at Johnson. Amount is $39,900.
Second.
Dave seconds. Any questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. Those are all the invoices I printed. Carolyn, are there others?
That's correct. That's it.
Okay. And then I had asked you, I got a bunch of stuff from environmental. I saw it come in the mail today when I was sorting the mail at the municipal center, and they're all the payroll thing.
Yeah.
So is it better to give them to Kathy or better to drop them off at the field office on your desk?
I would give them to Kathy. I think Kathy has other copies, and those certified payrolls come in from ESC to the town hall like every other week or so. So until we can gather them all up, we also get them by email. So the hard copy is a requirement, but no one's going to be looking at them in the near future anyways.
Right. And I'll, I have to drop a bunch of stuff off to Kathy tomorrow anyway, so I will bring those in.
That'd be great.
Anything
Nancy,
else on our school projects?
Nancy, I have a question.
Sure.
When, on these smart boards and all the technical equipment being installed in the schools, when does the warranty start on that? Is it phased, or is it at the end of the project, the warranty kicks in on everything?
It's a good question. Anybody know the answer?
I don't know the answer. On construction, it's at the end of the entire project, but I'd have to go back and look and see what the specifications called for on this equipment. I'll do that.
That should bode well to look at all the stuff that's being installed for warranty wise, just out of curiosity.
Is it on a commissioner's report? Commission report?
Not for this, not for the AV equipment. So this is separate from all of the other equipment that's being provided as part of the construction package. So anything included in the construction specifications is at the completion of the entire project, including all the, all the mechanical equipment and everything. These display boards, yes, are being installed. Some of them are already installed and the rest will be installed over the summer. I'll check and make sure that all of the warranties start when they go into service at the end of the summer. That would be the intent.
Thank you.
Right, Carolyn, you said that was all the MEPF?
What was the question?
That was, I'm sorry, I meant Geraldine. That was all the MEPF equipment would be at the end of the project would be?
That's correct.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Anything else for school project, Geraldine or Ken or Jim or Joe? So we have a little work ahead of us, which we will get into soon, and get some information from Joe and Joe. And obviously the schedule is going to be hashed out in some of the meetings that they have coming up, Carolyn and Jim and Ken and Christine, etc. And I think that's it for that part. Yes?
Okay.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Good
All
night,
right.
everybody.
So school folks can go. The rest of you have to stay.
Good night.
Good night,
All right.
everyone.
Bye.
Good night. Thanks, Dave, Geraldine, everybody else. Thanks.
Stay safe, everyone.
Yep, you too. So rest of public site, we have briefly the police station project. Tomorrow, Wednesday is tomorrow, the 29th. That's the day scheduled for the walkthrough of the firing range. David Horvath and Roy and John Perna, I believe, all responded that they want to be at that walkthrough. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
And are you three still available? It's at 10 o'clock.
Nancy, I text Richie today that I've been asked to attend a special meeting, so I'm not going to be able to go tomorrow at 10.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry.
that's okay. So Roy, you're coming?
Yes, I am.
David's coming.
There with bells on.
Okay, and one more person could actually come if you were available. Richie?
Rich?
Rich wants to go.
Well, Richie can come. He's not like creating a quorum. I just don't want to create a quorum. I could go up. I was kind of holding back because I knew John and Roy really wanted to go, and David jumped right in too. So I may stop in also, unless John, Menti, or
Yeah, I'm going to be over New York State tomorrow
Okay.
for a while.
I had to go take care of my dad.
What's that?
I have to go take care of my dad.
Oh, oof.
Yeah, that's a story.
All right. Hope
Good
he's
luck,
doing
John.
okay. Dino's dad's like 90 something.
Yeah.
94 next month.
Wow.
God bless.
So Richie, are you going to come?
Yes.
Okay. So basically what I would say with this, I asked Jeff Anderson about lighting because if I had to, I was going to bring up every extension cord I own plus a bunch of halogen lights. He said they were going to provide lighting. So I hope that's the case, but if I show up and we don't have enough, I can run back to my house and grab what I have here. And as I had said in the email, it's going to be 5, you know, because we can't have any more than 5 in a space. It'll be 1 person from Downs, 1 from Hoffman, 1 from the public site, somebody from the PD. I asked Pugner if it was going to be him. I didn't get an answer. And somebody from Connecticut Masons. There's nothing to say that we can't be there and be outside and be away from each other. I would bring your own masks and any other protective gear that you think you might want to have. And you'll just take turns going in and out. There are the photos that Pugner sent the last rainstorm. So that John was up, I guess he did a drive-by and then texted Pugner and asked him how things were going with that whole area under the communications tower. Was it draining properly? And Steve said, yes, it's great. And then he asked him again about firing range. So that's when he went and took the photos. So it doesn't look like there's any more water coming in. Yet when they took the picture of the outside, which I hope whoever's there brings those along too, that looked like everything was dry, but suddenly here's some water on the outside. Where was that coming from? And I didn't find out whether that was actually during a rainstorm. It didn't seem like it because everything else seemed dry. So is that an area where infiltration is happening more? We're not sure. So it'll be interesting. Whoever's there, please take some really good notes. I'm sure somebody's going to be taking notes to make sure that there's an agreement between Hoffman, who did that initial report for us, and CT Masons and us as to what areas are going to be remediated. Because I think we need to make sure that every area that's possibly needed is covered. And Roy and Rich, I know you've been up there. Initially, we started making X's on the wall using, I only could find in my truck at a time, a lumber carpenter's pencil. I didn't have any lumber crayons. Somebody was using Sharpie. So there's lots of X's on the walls where we saw water coming in. So there's lots of spaces I think they're going to need to have to deal with both from the inside and the outside.
Should we look into marking more tomorrow?
Well, if it's wet, yes. But if
Okay.
it's not wet, then I think that it's going to be difficult to say where it is. But I think, David, you may be able, you know, when you look at it, you'll see every time I've been up there, it's been with a flashlight or with my phone as a light. And most of the rest of us, the same thing. When we've been up there, you know, it's with a flashlight or a phone light. And having brighter lights, I think you may see maybe a little more calcification. You may see places where the mortar is not good, because then there are some places where it just definitely looks not smooth and not, you know, it just doesn't look right. So I would, you know, go over it with a fine tooth comb if you can, and then keep us posted. And then from there, I think there's going to need to be some sort of report written up as far as what areas are going to be covered, et cetera, before we agree on getting started. I think we need to know exactly and make sure everything's going to be covered before they start.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to hear what Hoffman has to say about the areas.
Yeah, and those of you who are going to,
we were never there when they were there talking about it. So, the commission members could be asking questions often of what they're proposing to do there. So I think
Right.
it'll be a great meeting.
Yes, I think that initial report that they did, none of us, they didn't let us know they were going to be there. They just, Downs went and did it. I don't think any of us were there, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So it'll
I
be
think,
good.
I think Downs were trying to cover themselves, and I think the report ended up doing a lot of damage to Downs.
Right.
And, it's a little bit awkward now. It's almost like we should have, Huffman should be being paid for by us, per se. I mean, as a, it's just a little awkward. I'm not too sure, Nancy, we don't really have any real true representative. I'm assuming, Huffman's going to be, the honest, party here, and it seems that they are, but it's just awkward that we don't have a person on board per se handling it. Because it's quite complicated. I mean, I don't have to say complicated. There's a lot to it, and it's not as easy as just saying, "Hey, we're going to have them cut back, 6 different joints." It's all over the place.
Right. And I think that Hoffman's reputation, in a way, as a forensic architect, is kind of on the line if they're not.
I agree with you, Nancy.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not as concerned as I probably normally would be. But, I do agree on that point that Hoffman seems to be the go-to guys with the masonry stuff.
Right.
So
right.
I think.
Their report was not kind to Downs.
Exactly, John.
It was not kind to Downs.
That's why I'm kind of, normally I'd probably be very uncomfortable with how it's being handled. In this case, it seemed like Hoffman is, pretty much behind what we've been saying on this. So, what we want to make sure is that, everything gets done to what Hoffman's recommendations would be.
Right, and that's why I think we need to take some, take pictures if you need to, take some good notes. I wasn't planning to be there, like I said, because I thought John was, but John's got, work stuff he's got to do, so I might get up there myself, and we'll just make sure that we take turns going in and
Yep.
All like that.
Just
So,
to confirm, we all meet in the front of the police station?
no, we're not
Down-
gonna be in the front.
Down back.
Yeah, Pugner was very clear to come down the back. So when you come in, instead of going straight to the front of the building, take a right and go down the hill and park in the back, and they'll go in through that that side entrance to the range. You'll see people starting to congregate there. So that was a good question, because Pugner was clear they're trying to keep traffic through the building, through the lobby, and through the building to a minimum. So we'll go in and out the side door there.
Thank you.
I thought we were meeting under the cupola.
Yeah, we're gonna meet under the.
Minty told me we were meeting under the cupola.
Hey, we're gonna have the
John,
blinds
you're a
down.
fibber.
The blinds are all coming down first.
That John Minty, he was fibbing to me.
Let it go. Let it go.
So Rich has a question, I think. If he stops laughing, Rich is.
We have to, have they conveyed, has someone conveyed to Downs that they're not to do any work until we see the report, that the proposal that they're going to do, how to correct the problem, is given to the commission before they proceed?
So in some ways, they have presented a proposal. They, the one proposal they gave us back last December, when we all sat down, I think it was December. They had sort of a step-by-step repointing kind of thing, the cutting out the joints and repointing, et cetera. But I think we need to have that restated, and I think something needs to be very specifically put together. And
I think that can be made very clear to him tomorrow. Nothing to proceed until we get a report.
I had the impression Jeff Anderson was thinking along the same line, Nancy, on that.
Yeah.
That there would be something written up first.
Yes.
Yeah, and and I'm not sure if Jeff is the person who's going to be there tomorrow, or if it'll be one of the more construction, like John Fraioli or one of those. But we'll just make sure that they know, they hear from us that they are not to proceed with any work until we have a report on the areas to be covered, you know, whether it includes photos or not. I think that will come from Hoffman. And won't specifically come from Downs. I think it has to come from Hoffman because they're the ones that generated the report showing the problems. But we can ask that too.
Agreed.
Okay. And then the other part of the police station was two things. Brian Humes is included on most of the emails. He's always included on the agendas, etc. I think you saw his reply to me, like, why aren't you paying me? I haven't replied to him yet, but I will. I basically will say, I understand your frustration, but you have to understand our frustration in that there's so many parts of this project that were not completed. We still don't have a CO. And in my email to Jeff Anderson about my initial quick meeting with Chris Baldwin at the beginning of March, Jeff said basically, and I thought it was kind of snippy in a way, where he said, I don't understand why you don't have a CO. And I said, I thought that was something that you had to deal with. So he reached out to Ryan, who emailed Chris Baldwin, and said, Chris, what's going on with this? And there hasn't been any answer from Chris Baldwin, unless it went between Chris and Ryan. And I don't know that. I didn't ask that question, but I will.
And the question that I have is that after talking to one of the policemen, they said that they were taking their training at the state troopers shooting range. And there must be a cost associated with that. And I was just wondering what that cost is by not having the shooting range in operation.
Well, they've had that expense for quite a while. They haven't been able, I think for a long time, they weren't able to use the range in the old police station because of all the issues with lead and all the, well, there was abatement that had to be done before Rizzo could move in and use the space, and the air exchange in there too. So they've had a cost with that for quite a while.
Well, it's money, taxpayers' money that's being spent needless.
I don't think the state range costs the towns anything to use. We're paying for it as a taxpayer already.
Oh, I see. State tax, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other question
I don't know. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
Well, no, to finish, I got something a little bit different on the
No,
range.
I was just wondering if for the Bethel taxpayer to make an accounting of how much we're spending, and that to initiate the repair to the firing range.
Yeah, well, I can bring something up as I don't think the Board of Finance is going to find any money to finish the firing range this year, the way things are going. But we'll have to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that.
Yeah, that was I was going to talk about. Because I know they put in for, like, I believe, Robert Palmer, I think he's still on. I think they put in for like $700,000 for the interior of the range. But the question I have is, do we want to oversee that or say not our problem?
Well, I think what's, or Robert can confirm, that was going to be part of a capital question, but I think the capital items got taken out and some got put in capital non-recurring, but I don't know if it's still there.
Yeah, it has not been, we still have capital non-recurring to pay for these capital items. It has not been prioritized though at this point. And I could guess that it's not going to be, not in this cycle.
Yeah. not in this particular
budget
season or in the new budget, the budget that's being proposed.
I'm talking about the new budget, yeah.
Okay, all right.
But, you know.
Basically, there's money in there, but it's not been prioritized, and that's going to take some.
That's correct.
Haggling on the part of the Board of Finance.
Yes, there are a lot of things in there, and not enough money to cover everything.
Right.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah. So I have nothing on the municipal center thing because now would be a perfect time to do it, but there's no money, and if there's no money for lots of things. So I don't even know if that was brought up as part of a capital item, but that whole capital
It
part of
was.
the budget's been, it was, okay.
There was some discussion about it. And we, Bob Kozlowski put I think a number in there. I think we were talking 400 or something like that.
450, something like that, yeah.
But as we just discussed about the police station, that might not go here or there. Are we any closer to getting a bid done on it?
Well, so the RFP that we sent to Marty for review, he kind of came back with a whole bunch of updates.
Are we any closer to getting a bid done on it?
So we'd have to put out an RFP, and to get the RFP done, it's going to take a little more time because Marty reviewed it and sent it back and had a bunch of kind of language clarification things that he thought needed to be done. I mean, the initial RFP was supposed to go out and, you know, say that we wanted to get the job done by July 1st, but there's no money to get the job done by July 1st. So that's all got to get changed.
I mean, it would take a couple, you could probably revise a whole RFP in a day.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, with this climate, with the money, I just think right now we'll be spinning our wheels waiting until we find out what the Board of Finance is going to appropriate.
Agreed.
But that doesn't stop us from getting an RFP done and
Right, written up and ready to
and
go.
have it ready to go, and all we'd have to do is plug numbers in, so. All right, so just quickly before we jump off and adjourn, if we can agree that we're gonna do something real soon about the school projects, because I think that it's my opinion. So we have money in our contingencies, both of them. I think Rockwell could get it eaten up really quickly. Johnson, maybe not, but it could. And Kathy's making everybody laugh. She's dancing over there. But I almost feel like the way to approach the whole thing with Perkins Eastman is to, and it was my suggestion, and I actually asked Geraldine, and she was like, oh, I don't know, I've never heard of that, but share the expense with Rizzo. Because I think there are parts of, so Rizzo had asked for Perkins Eastman's proposals, which I forwarded to Jim and Ken. And then we got a response, which I think I forwarded to everybody. And if you didn't read it yet, you should. It's a little snarky, but I can understand where they're coming from. Because I think that there's, and it's hard to tell the percentages. Some of this is Perkins Eastman's underbidding. Some of it is the whole coordination issue, which is a combination of Rizzo and a combination of unforeseen, not unforeseen circumstances, but the difficulty with the buildings. That was just like known going in. That's probably the largest percentage. And then there's some unforeseen circumstances and et cetera. It's hard to put some percentages on there, but I still think that, you know, it all coming out of our contingency isn't fair, and some of it needs to come out of construction contingency. I just don't know how to make that happen.
Yeah, see,
question?
What?
I strongly disagree. If you have to get counsel to make a decision on this. You start setting a precedence that we go and splitting the difference between Perkins Eastman, we'll have multiple people waiting at our door.
Everyone.
And Geraldine's gonna do it, then the commissioning agent's gonna do it. You can't. I'll tell you, if there's ever a time, and we have to ask Marty, if this is not in Marty's wheelhouse, then the town should retain somebody. Because this is serious money. I mean, and I'm gonna tell you, Geraldine said it at the last meeting. She already said they're looking for an increase.
It's opening the door. It's a slippery slope.
Well, but that's why I said,
Once you do it for one person, in my opinion,
You can't do for all.
guilt.
But that's what I'm saying is,
pave the road for everybody
But so this is my question. Can I interrupt? I'm sorry, but I just want to. Rizzo did the Danbury High School, correct?
Yes.
How did that, and I'm trying to remember because I don't remember, how did that all play out in the end? Do we know? Were the same
Highly recommended that from the Danbury schools.
That's what I
Highly
thought.
recommended.
But-
And we went and asked them, how were they on processing the state paperwork? Danbury told us, excellent. Now, one of the big things that Perkins Eastman said was, well, they didn't have the right software. Well, you waited until a year into the project to tell us this?
Right.
That's
That would be
because
something you would bring up in the first month or two. Hey, listen, we got a disconnect. Their software doesn't talk to ours. So, so that's Perkins Eastman. That's a lame excuse, in my opinion.
I don't buy that crap. I'm sorry, because I've been doing this for 30 years and I've dealt with Perkins Eastman. They just don't remember me. And we kind of had a problem with them a few years back too. And I don't want to hear about the software. I don't want to hear this. It's simple everyday accounting. It's not rocket science. It's, hey, we have a $200,000 budget. We spent X amount of dollars this week because John was there 4 times. We charge $100 an hour for him.
Right.
Exactly.
Rocket science. And that's
Right.
one thing that I like literally almost lost it last week. That's why I shut up. And again tonight, because I don't want to be the raving lunatic that comes after him because we need them to finish the job. But enough is enough. You guys bid the job. I don't care if you didn't know what the margins was. I don't care if you didn't know that the other people were paying 8% on top of your 4%. That's not our problem. You bid the job with your money, with what you thought, your hours, and you didn't keep you didn't keep your accounting straight. That's not our problem.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's not.
No, because if we knew earlier on, we would have tried to control a little bit of how often we asked them to be at this.
That's what I tried to bring up again tonight was you can't tell me, and I know Nancy did too, you can't tell me that 3 months ago, your accounting department didn't come to you and say, hey, we're burning through $30,000 a month. And we were thinking, okay, here's your Apex. Don't give me that crap. I've been doing this way too long for that. No, I'm sorry.
If that's the case, he should fire his accounting department.
Yes, Dino, exactly.
Well, but that's what I was saying about if we go with that, then who else is going to ask for money?
Right.
Rizzo want more money.
It's nonstop.
Yeah.
It's nonstop.
Yep.
We're rocking a hard place, my friends.
No different than the contractors coming in and say, oh, I need more money for my bid because I didn't figure enough for it.
Well,
it's an ongoing thing.
Isn't that what
they were well aware of the condition of those buildings when they bid the job.
Well, isn't that what the roofer said initially? The roofer, when the bid came back, and then the roofer came back and said, one of the roofers pulled out, but then there was another one the one that they went with, found out that he was way under, and they were trying to get us to approve a change order to help pay for that. People underbid a job, either get the hell out or.
I just think it's because it's a public job. They're trying to pull this crap because in the private sector, when they pull this shit, I yank the carpet right off from under them and say, no, sorry.
There's
It's not
no discussion at all.
Yeah. No, it's, you want more money? We'll find a lawyer and we'll talk.
Yep,
Until then,
exactly.
Shut up.
They don't even bring that stuff up. That's just no discussion.
I've been down this road too many times. Sorry.
Okay, so if we're going to have a special meeting, we really need more information. The information we asked them for, like breaking it out hours, even if it's by a month at a time or whatever, to get that information before we have a meeting, correct?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And then, as I said, I had emailed Marty with this plus a bunch of other things. And he got back to me on a couple things, but he still has to get back on this. So I'll just send this one thing to him and see if he can jump on that and look at it so we can get some kind of idea of where we have to go.
You know, another thing. I worked for an environmental
You don't know what
consulting firm years ago. And 25 years ago, we used to keep track of every freaking minute we worked because it was billable. I mean, this is before the computers we have today. You had to keep track of everything you did 25, 30 years ago because you were billable.
So
that's
Plus they
crap.
got a budget. I mean, they had a budget that they worked for to put this, bid together.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
And so if you look at, and they came in a zip file, and it was a separate, I think I forwarded it to everybody. 'cause
I
kinda-
couldn't open it.
I couldn't open it either.
All right, so I'll see if I can take each document
I
out.
printed it. I got it.
All right, well, I was able to,
Oh, good for you, Dave.
I unzipped it and I have them all as separate documents, so I could send them as separate documents. Because I actually just received it, I think yesterday, which stuff's supposed to be in before noon and then it's not. Anyways, there's the letter, and then there's a list of submittals for both Rockwell and Johnson, and then there's another list. Oh, there's some stuff like emails that were sent back when Susan Japoris was on the project as they were setting things up to create bid documents. So it's basically Rizzo saying, look what we've done, and there was a list of things they've done to save us money. But I think if Perkins Eastman took that list of submittals and took the date of the submittal and looked at who was, I know it's going to be time consuming, but if they took it, who was working on it, they could make that connection and they could come up with the information that we need.
I mean, the only thing is, Nancy, I understand that, and I don't think it's a bad thing, but by the same token, kind of from the discussion of what we just had, no one really wants to hear it. So,
yeah.
But if they don't want, what you mean, no one meaning Perkins Eastman?
Us, our group, basically, it is what it is. It's kind of a bigger question with Marty is I hate to be negotiating the end deal per se when, I think our initial position is we don't think we're, that we want to go this way.
Just out of curiosity though, Roy, in my personal opinion, and this is just mine, I'd love to see what they come up with. I'd love to see how they come up with the hours and time spent and who did what, because I'm sure that between Bob Germanero and you folks who've been around longer than I have, you probably could account for at least 60, 70% of it and then see what they come up with. If Mary was on the computer for 6 hours a night sending out emails, okay, so be it, but we would have an email traffic, right? You'd be able to bring it back.
Yep, I agree. I think it's worthwhile. But,
Yeah, in my experience, having worked at jobs where you have to bill hours back, and not every hour a day is billable, some are unbillable, but you have to code every hour. Anybody you work on a case, you bill to that case. And you have to do that on a daily or weekly basis. And to go for 13 months and then to find out you're over budget, this is just ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't make sense that they can be so poorly managed to only find this out because some accountant is all of a sudden discovering they're over budget. It just doesn't add up.
I think
I'm salary and I still have to account for my 40 hours, which I work more than that, but I account for my 40 hours a week and I'm salary. I have 10 guys beneath me that I have to account for every minute of their day. Granted, it's broken out to 15-minute increments, but I have to account for that every week so they get paid.
Yep.
It's what it is.
Yeah, no question
And
about
they're not just over a little bit. $300,000.
Yeah, no, it's big money.
That's almost as much
I could almost
as
retire.
So it's going to be interesting to see, as David said, let's see how they account for their time and how much of that is because of things that they left off the plans and specifications that no one could interpret it until they got clarification of it.
Well, and that's something that Rizzo kind of goes into some detail with the documents that they sent. Were some things that they, basically of some bullets where Rizzo says these are things that we did to help the town save money. Because basically, and because of the coordination situation they keep bringing up, that there was just no space to put stuff anywhere. And so it had to it almost had to be, it couldn't be figured out ahead of time. They kind of had to figure it out all together, not necessarily on the fly, but with contractors standing there and the design people and the MEP guy and the engineers all sitting there looking at it and going, yep, this is the best way to do it. You know, they could have spent tons of time ahead of time trying to do it, and that it might not have worked.
Right.
It's a
There's
lot
always
of-
the unknown. There's always the unknown,
Right.
which you got to give them some leeway. But I'm not going to give them $300 and something thousand worth of leeway. I'll give you $30,000, $40,000 worth of leeway.
Agreed. 100%. Agreed.
It sounds like we all pretty much in agreement with that. Or
Right.
something
And so
like that.
if we come up with, if they come up, well, they're going to have to come up with some information for us
Yeah.
so that we can look at it and say, can't give you this, but we can give you this.
Right. Yep.
Okay. So, and like I said, I'll email Marty and try to get more information from him about, you know, what do we have to do to change the contract. Kathy, I'll be coming to see you with some stuff tomorrow. I'll see some of the rest of you at the firing range, and hopefully we won't all shoot each other. And,
In terms of the firing range, I did check the capital plan, and the firing range is on there, not for this upcoming budget year, but for the year after. About $880,000 is mentioned in there
as a capital project or as a capital non-recurring?
as a capital project.
Okay, but not on the budget that you're working on right now.
No.
So another whole year from now.
That's what's, I mean, those things change all the time, but that's
right.
what's on it right now.
Rich? Oh, you got to unmute yourself, or somehow I can't hear you. So.
About now. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I did have a brief conversation with Mark, and he's gonna talk to you, but maybe some kind of that you can work something out with Perkins and Eastman, that you give them a little bit of something, because, you know, if he slows the project down, we're going to be at a standstill, but not to the extent of what they want. You know, maybe as this list comes out, you can see something that, you know, you can throw them a bone for something, but not 300,000.
Right. And I think that they won't slow things down. I think that they're too well known and too
So he's going to have a conversation with you on it.
Okay. All right.
And then, you know, maybe you can get him to come to your meeting one day.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Rich.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second it.
Odino.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. See ya. Kathy. Bye, everybody.
Batteries
y'all
are
later.
good.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Keep you
Be
posted.
safe.